Just so you know, this is silly town.
You're like ready in the next.
Hello, my silly little freaks. Welcome back to another episode of The Dog and the Frog. How are you doing today?
I haven't had coffee today, so this one could get real weird. Like I haven't had any caffeine yet today, so we're just gonna raw dog this.
You know,
I didn't even mean for that pun.
I was like trying to chug it before I got back home, even though the car ride's only like 5 minutes. But so I've switched from coffee. I'm turning into an energy drink person because I realized that my coffee that I was drinking was not great for my stomach. It just has too much milk in it. But I actually don't like energy drinks that much. The taste is weird.
There is one energy drink that I drink. I mean, I'll drink sugar-free Red Bull, but that was like I really had to quit that because that was I had a concerning Red Bull addiction to the point where I would drink like 60 ounces of sugar-free Red Bull in one Saturday. So we don't drink Red Bull anymore. There's one energy drink that I drink, but I prefer black coffee. All day. But I haven't had anything, so let's see how this goes.
I totally just lost my train of thought. That's super good start on that.
It's on brand. We're gonna stay on brand every episode.
Yes. Well, yes, we are. So today's topic, gonna give a little PSA before we hop into it, I guess. Probably a little bit of TMI. Mom, please don't listen to this episode. So I'm just gonna start off hot. I've been doing sex work since I want to say 19 is when I started, so I'm going on about 10 years now. I just recently got back into it. I recently started being more consistent with it, I guess. It's actually been super helpful with like where I'm at with like my body positivity and like just in general self-esteem and stuff, which is not really the whole main goal of it, but you know,
it's a nice little.
I'm poor, so we're getting back into it strong because I need more money. I forgot how weird people get about it sometimes. It's like when you take those like extended breaks and then you like just jump straight back into the deep end. Like some of the places that I post, like FetLife, somebody commented some shit in French, so it was a fun little ride of like translating what the fuck they were whatever they were saying. And it's people are just so fucking weird sometimes.
I have questions. I'm scared.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
What is there like an example of weird that you could share? I attract feet people for some reason. So like,
well, you got nice feet. That's the way it is.
I don't think I do. No, they're usually
maybe that's what it is then. You know, I don't.
You know what? I didn't think about that as the opposite. I'm like, I attract like the foot goblins.
So specifically, the person last night, I did a cute little bubble bath one, and I don't know how accurate the translation was because I just threw that shit in Google. But it was very bold, and they were just like, what did they say? I think the translation said something of just like, a bath is always recommended before anal or something. And I'm like, that's, who brought that up? Like, I'm just sitting here looking pretty in my bubbles.
Thanks so much.
Coming in hot. So that was, I think that's the weirdest it's been lately. But you know, I feel like it's kind of just like any customer service type thing where it's like, yes, I know I'm providing a service, but I would appreciate if you would just be a little bit respectful about it. Cause like, I'm still a person, you know, it's, so I feel like that's one thing that carries over from like my day job that just kind of, it's not
Well,
Not
yeah,
ideal.
they carry over like it's like when you're tattooed and you're in public and people think that that just means they can touch you, you know? Like cuz like this one that's in like my inner arm, like people will grab my arm and just like twist my whole arm. Like let me see. I'm like, we don't have to
Yeah,
touch to do that, right?
yeah,
I'll show you. They're there so you can see them, but we don't have to touch.
yeah.
I had I've been selling feet pictures for years because like one day someone was in my DMs like I'll give you $50 for picture of your feet doing, it was like a specific bend of the sole. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. If you want to give me money for this shit, I'm going to do it. Like, I don't care anymore. So it was funny because actually one guy that like bought for me pretty consistently, I like send people to Snapchat for that because I don't focus on this stuff. You know what I mean? That's not what I'm doing right now. But
Yeah.
I didn't answer him for like 2 weeks, and then he sent me this like really rude message, like I found someone else to handle this for me, blah blah blah. And I'm like, bro, you're real entitled to act like I have to answer you in a certain period of time. You haven't sent me any money. Like, I don't spend all day doing this. You know what I do. You know that I have a full time job. I run a business. I'm chronic. Like I said, I'm chronically online. People know that I'm busy.
Yeah.
You're entitled to me sending you pictures of my toes at your beck and call without even sending a payment. Like, no, come on.
Yeah, no. That's you absolutely have to at least pay. If you have enough energy to be that bold and request something like that, you definitely have to back it up. You can't just, no matter how long you've been having that exchange, like you're you're providing a service. You should be paid for that service. Like I don't, yeah. The entitlement is always a fun one. It was interesting.
Good.
Oh, sorry. It was
No,
I was just saying it's interesting looking at the different reasons that people get into this line of work, whether it's like dancing or just like something like that. Um, so it just I don't know. I haven't met a lot of people that it's just like, you know what, I'm gonna do this because somebody requested it and it works out.
yeah, and I mean, like, listen, right now for me, it's just feet. But I think I've always thought that sex work is like a legitimate profession, right?
Oh, of course.
Nobody had, everybody had a problem with it back in the day, right? When pornography was like male driven, right? But women
Yeah.
took the reins, and now it's like, well, we're taking control of the situation, right? Like, if we're gonna do
Yeah.
this, we're gonna do it right. We're gonna do it our way, and I don't know. It's a service, right? Like, I don't know that many people that don't watch porn. So who's going to make it for you? And
Right.
why would that be any less valid than any other job that you have? Like, it's a form of art for me. I think it's an art form anyway.
Yeah. Like for me, it definitely started out of like a necessity thing because obviously I was very young.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I honestly wish I wouldn't have gotten into it as early as I did, but I also was I had been struggling with like my mental health and like my physical health a lot at that time, and I had just lost my job, and I was like I don't know what else to fucking do, so and I started camming, and that's kind of my initiation into the business, and it was I mean, even in just in like the last 10 years, I feel like it's come so far, especially like when lockdown hit, a lot more femme people, especially kind of like started OnlyFans and stuff like that. And I feel like there was a drastic shift in the general community of that then. Um, but when I started, it was still very, very male driven and just a very negative space. And it definitely didn't help with my mental health, but it paid the bills for the time being. But like even more recently, one of a couple of the creators that I follow, they've been doing what they're calling art house porn, and they're making it much more like it's like indie film style videos and stuff like that, and it's honestly it's phenomenal. Like the whole aesthetic of it, it looks so cool, and um, it's definitely more focused on appealing to less of like the male vision of what porn should be, and I love that so much. Because like obviously it's still a job and it's work and stuff, but like being able to make it something that's a little bit more enjoyable and like more pleasing to look at and stuff like that is I got a lot of respect for what they're doing.
I have a friend. I have a friend who's written some. So I've read some of. I think I read one film and watched one. Um, and it's interesting because there's so much more like actual storyline now, not the weird storyline. Like it feels like a film. And the other piece of it too is I think the like the concept of sex work as like an industry used to be much more linear. Like it was a tunnel vision concept, right? Like it's
Yeah.
expanded now where people understand that it's more than just film, right? Like you're talking about dancers, you're talking about there to an extent, right? Like book talk is like an extreme extension of sex work, right? Like when you talk about like book talk and all of the smut books that everybody's into right now, like it's one step
Yeah.
into actually getting into the industry. And I love it because it's removing shame from sexuality. Because I
Yeah.
don't know why we ever were ingrained to have shame around that. So like,
Christianity.
well, yeah.
Oh, we're gonna blame everything on the fucking colonizing Christians. We're just gonna blaming it on them. That's fucking
Like
Catholics, man.
I was raised Catholic, so I hear it. We're animals, though, right? We're
Yeah.
humans are animals. There's instinct. It's all fine. We don't judge animals for their instinct.
That was actually such a weird hurdle for me to get over, because I wasn't raised Catholic, but the religion that I was kind of raised in and around like the community and stuff was also still very shame based in general. um I'm sure nobody's gonna know what this is, but Mennonites, they're basically Amish, except they drive cars and fuck with electronics and stuff like that. But like it's not great. And so like growing up like that, and then very young, because I think I stopped going to church shortly after my parents divorced. So I was probably only like 9 or 10, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't even a full decade later that I had gotten out of that and then got into this line of work and stuff. And so like that drastic shift, it's honestly, it still feels weird looking back, but now I'm just like, I have no shame. It is what it is. I like to show off. I'm finally at a place where I'm happy being looked at like that. So I'm going to take advantage of it, like,
Hey, listen, our bodies generally don't get better as we get older, right? We start to deteriorate. So if you can celebrate it now, I'm here for it. Like,
honestly, it's weird. I feel like for men that's a little bit more true, but like I think for femme people, I've seen so many people go through like really negative body stages like younger, and then as they get older, they start like really focusing more on themselves and like taking care of themselves, and then they're just like, when I was like 21, I was in the worst shape of my life, and now I'm like 35, and I've never been hotter, and I love that so much.
you're 35?
Oh no,
Oh, I'm like, what do you mean you're not 35?
no,
I'm like,
not me, but just like looking at people like online and stuff like that. It's like no.
well, if I don't actually know how old you are. No, okay, thank you. Well, I will tell you, 35 was, I think, the best shape of my life.
Yeah.
My body goes through a lot of transition, though. Like, I fluctuate. That's for no reason other than the way that I take care of it fluctuates so drastically. But, like, I will say,
Yeah.
I've definitely come to a new appreciation of it over the last, like, 4 or 5 years in all the forms it's in. Like, right now, would I tell you that my body is in its peak form that I love people looking at all the time? No. But will I tell you that it's strong and it's operating well? Like, yeah. And for that reason, I'm okay with people seeing it. Like, some people that, probably a lot of people to start that find us are my friends are going to come from my Instagram. And I mean, there's no secret. If you've been on my Instagram, you know exactly what my ass looks like in a thong.
Yeah.
All I like to shoot. Like those are like the images I like to be shot in. I wear the thongs to the beach. Like, what's the difference? I don't understand why that would be an issue. So, and it's funny because one of those pictures is one of the ones that really set my parents off. And I'm like, this is a bathing suit. This was before I was even shooting. I'm like, this is a bathing suit. Like, why would I be ashamed of this? And I was in the best shape of my life at that point. Like, I could not have been happier with my body. And if I had the balls at that point in time, I probably would have gotten into sex work at that point in time because I was like, this is it. This peak form. I'm never going to achieve this again, which now I don't believe. I think my final form is coming, but it was a good one.
That's kind of how I feel also. Like I definitely think right now I'm probably in like the best shape I've been, especially in like a really long time, because I went from like struggling a lot with like, you know, like eating disorder stuff in like my teens and stuff, and then early 20s, rapidly popping out 3 kids, and that like the drastic shift in like my whole body dysmorphia thing that happened in there. And I still keep those pictures because I started, I was posting through all of that. And like looking back at like those shifts and like where my body was at, I was like, I was fucking miserable with the way I looked back then. And now I'm like, I still know I'm not peak form yet, but like you said, I'm strong and I'm getting stronger, and like I just feel physically good. So
that sounded like a baby dragon.
that's my dog. It
was very quiet, but it did sound a little bit like a baby dragon.
So fucking but yeah, I don't know, it's fun watching that transition, like after it's over, but like going through it sometimes is really fucking difficult, especially when you're trying to like push through and like use that physicality to to try and make more money and stuff. Oh, it's interesting.
Everyone is somebody's type though, right? Like I think we get stuck in our idea of like what we want to look like, whether it's to do something like this or not, right? And you forget that everybody is somebody's type. Like there's nobody in the entire world that's like, nope, nobody finds that attractive. It's everybody. But we get stuck in these visions for ourselves. And so I always try to remind people like, yeah, have a goal. But something I try to do is like keep my goal myself. So I'll look at older pictures of myself when I was in a shape that I felt like I was both healthy and looked good, because those are two different things.
Yeah.
By leaps and bounds. And I try to use myself more often than I try to use others, because I don't want to have, visions. So I don't know. I think it's cool to like have work like that too, that you can look back on and see physically what the changes look like, and then probably remember mentally too, really, what was the mindset shift in the last 10 years as you're doing, I don't know what channels you post on, to be honest. Like I know that you have an Instagram and whatnot, but whatever channels you're in, right? Seeing the mindset shift, if you're writing, whether it's the captions or your interactions with fans, and it's just interesting to be able to look back on growth. I always hate when people clear everything out of like their social media, like breakups, they delete everything, or they lose a bunch of weight and they delete everything, or they gain a bunch of muscle, or whatever it is. It's like, look at your whole journey. It's such a fun. It's so fun to see who you used to be, even if you didn't always love that person the way you should have.
Yeah. I think that's... I'm going to go deal with the baby dragon for 2 seconds. He's never like that, so I don't know why he's being weird today.
Mine will probably start in a minute, because they're doing some work outside, so.
Yeah. But yeah, like you were saying about like going back and like clearing everything out and shit. I have done that, like kind of, but to the extent that like I just went through my Instagram and took off like all the pictures of my kids that were on there.
Yeah.
Because with all the shit that happens on the internet, I'm just like, we're just gonna get them off that. But you can go back and see what I looked like. Probably, I think like back to, what was it, like freshman year of high school. Like I stand by that weirdo that I was back then, because that's how I got to be so comfortable being, the silly little freak that I am now. Was just suffering through all of the cringe and all that, the excessive filters and, editing and all that shit that I was doing back then. So like, I don't know. I think it's good to look back, and I definitely, I occasionally will like delete something if it's like with my ex, I deleted some shit there because it was just like, I'm not here for that vibe. But like with like old friends and stuff, that shit's gonna stay up, because it's like, yeah, we don't talk anymore, but that was where I was at in my life, and that's who I was with, and so we're gonna keep that, and
yeah, I love that. I'm older, so a lot of my high school stuff is on like is in like actual photo albums. I joined Facebook when Facebook was new, and you had to have a college email to be on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm a MySpace kid.
Oh
But
yeah,
then
no. Then,
they took all the pictures off MySpace. Like when they like revamped MySpace to whatever this weird fucking hybrid wanted it to be like a bigger music platform, and then they just broke everything. Like all my pictures are gone, and I'm like, you didn't even send an email to tell me to download them. Like
yeah.
that was like deranged, crazy, probably looked self confident, but had no self confidence Jen, and I want her back.
I tried for like months to get onto my MySpace. Because that was like middle school through freshman year
Mhm.
me. Like when I like little baby punk first started going to shows and, was still doing like the kind of swoopy like scene hair because like I fully lived through the scene era on MySpace. Like I there was some stuff on there. Like the full like angle and like the mirror pics with the fucking flash on for some goddamn reason.
Big
Like
belt, the big belt with the studded belts. Like
yeah. To be fair, I still have the
I have one.
studded belt that I had from
I just bought a
freshman
new one.
year.
Oh, you have the
It's
same one? I bought a new
yeah.
one. I like the white
Oh,
ones.
oh my shit's held together with duct tape. It is.
I bought a new
I
white one.
cherish that thing. Yeah. Um, mine's the classic black and silver. I think it used to have like a little bit of like the rainbow sheen around the studs, like when I first got it, but like that thing has seen some days, so it's just silver now.
Rainbow Sheen has since chipped off.
Yes. It's I don't know. I do wish that I could look back though, because like that was an interesting time in my life. But I don't know. I still have like the very ass end of like freshman year is when I got on Facebook for like the first time, and sometimes it's nice to go like look back and it's like, oh, my little mohawk, and still trying to figure out who the fuck I was, and it was fun.
Those memes about people that just like dump every picture into an album on Facebook and like don't edit them. That's me when I go to shows. So like Friendship Tour, I didn't even put everything up yet because like I don't go through and see which pictures I want. They just all go in there and that's where they live. And then I go
Yeah,
there and pull from them. Like those are for me. They're not for everybody else. If you want to look at them, that's great. But if there's 17 pictures from the same angle, that's my fucking business. Like
yeah.
handling this.
I did try at one point to like organize the pictures that I was like uploading to Facebook and stuff because uh I had this whole stage where I was trying really hard to be a photographer. So there's like, the sets from like certain days or whatever, or like certain group hangouts. And I mean, they're still just photo dumps for the most part. But now I'm just like, no, it's all in the same thing. It's all just on my timeline. It's either in the timeline or like posted from like Instagram or whatever. So and I
The
don't
only
know.
the only thing that's like really organized is shows and then travel. But
Yeah.
like there were so many pictures from Friendship Tour that like I uploaded two of the shows and I was like, I don't have the patience to upload these right now. So they're still sitting on my phone and they need to come off my phone because there's too much on my phone when it comes to like videos and pictures. And then now I'm about to go away again and there's going to be way too much on my phone again. So I
Yeah.
should probably do that before I go away. I have
That's
a
what see.
question.
That's why I got like a whole separate thing. I'm just like, yeah. I'll get a flash drive when I come back and put it all on there or something to get it off my phone. But like, I get phones with a lot of storage for that reason because I just don't have the energy to constantly like delete and upload and all that shit.
I know, but then it gets so my phone has like 250 gigs or something, but I don't know, 30,000 pictures and videos. Like, why
Yeah.
on my phone? The pictures that go back to like 2012. Why are these on my phone? Did I even have a smartphone in 2012? No. Where did I get this picture? Like, but the date on the phone is 2012. I don't know. I'm curious. So you said you just got back into being like more intentional and consistent posting. So what is it I don't know if it's financial or not, or is there like another motivation to why you got back into consistent posting for your sex work?
Um. Honestly, more often than not, when I do get back into it, it is like for financial stuff because it's rough out here.
Yeah.
And considering that I'm working on that whole career shift thing, it's nice to have that extra padding. But some of it is also, like I said, I feel like I'm in the best shape that I've ever been, and I feel like since I started to focus on me and like this whole celibacy journey and fucking like not dating and all that shit, it's kind of been helping with my self-confidence again. And it's honestly so weird to like have that overlap of like, yes, I do sex work, but I'm also celibate, and so it's all I don't know, it's a weird fun space.
People don't know how to react to that, right? Because like
Yeah.
I'm not doing sex work, but I'm doing sex coaching, and I talk. Did you see Dakota pop up in my
Yeah,
arm?
it was really cute.
And I talk about sexuality a lot, right? And I think it's something that we should talk about. Oh, everybody can see how my dog thinks he's a cat now if they're on YouTube. And I think it's something we should talk about more. So I do sex coaching. I talk about sex a lot. I'm sex positive, and so it's so funny because people just assume that that means that you're slutty, and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes I would really love for that to be true, but like actually, I haven't had sex in like 7-8 months.
Yep.
Because also I'm picky, right? Like I have reasons and standards. Some people do it because they're actively trying to take a break. Some people are just not finding like that connection. And it's weird how often people cannot um immediately grasp without appearing confused that you can talk about these things and be vocal about them and participate in things and but not actually be active, right? Like not actually
Yeah.
be in your slut era, which I would like to be in right now, but I'm failing. So.
Yeah. No, I feel that. Like I keep thinking, I'm just like, I'd really like to get back out there, but honestly, there's just I like you said, I'm picky, but I'm very much a slut in theory and not in practice right now. I think that's the way I'm looking at it. Because I guess I'm absolutely still just as slutty as I've always been, and I'm super proud of it. Like I don't we don't slut shame around here.
No.
And like if you don't want to take a break, that's fine. If you do want to take a break, that's also fine. I don't think that should necessarily change how you view yourself as like a sexual being. Unless that's like your goal of not doing stuff, obviously. But yeah, I don't know. I've also been theory versus practice for like 8 months. And honestly, I think it's made my desire to be a slut worse in some ways because it's like I fucking miss it, man. It's like I have some days and I'm just like we're just gonna go on fucking Tinder and figure it out. But then I'm just like, but I'm not in a location where I want to do that.
Yeah.
Especially because people around here are like super weird and like I don't. This is awful, but I learned a few years ago that my county specifically that I live in has one of the highest STD rates in like the country. And that's awful. And there's such a stigma around getting tested and being like open about that stuff. And like that's also pushed me to just keep to myself. Because I'm very big on like regularly get tested anytime you have new partners, or even if you have a consistent partner, just regularly get tested. It's not gonna hurt anything. And I feel like that's something I think we in general as a society need to work on destigmatizing significantly, because it's literally just take care of yourself, take care of the people that you are having fun with.
These are like two of my biggest gripes with slut shaming, right? Like if you have an opinion about how many people you should sleep with or have slept with or whatever that looks like, that's fine. But there are health implications to causing people to hide their sexuality, right? Whether it's not getting tested, not being educated about STIs or when you should be tested or any of that stuff, right? There's also like your general health, your libido can be a strong indicator of other things going on with your general health. Like when I check in with my trainer every week, I have to report on like my libido because we monitor. She actually tracks that to ask what's going on for me. Like these are, so it's so weird to me that, you know, people will walk around and talk about like, and I'll talk about all these things, right? Like I'll talk about how often I pooped this week, and that's not weird. But like if we talk about things in this space, there's supposed to be shame, and then the only thing that happens is it becomes dangerous for people, right? On top of people just not feeling comfortable being themselves, it becomes more dangerous. I was married and getting tested every 6 months, and at one point, my gynecologist was like, "You know what? I just really want to commend you on this because a lot of people don't continue this." And I'm like, "Listen, I shouldn't have trusted my husband, but at the time I did." And I was like, "But I don't know, this is just like you grow up and they tell you get tested." So, or at least they did for me, right? I was fortunate enough to grow up in a town and with parents where we talked about these things. So it was always
Yeah.
so it just like I never stop. Every 6 months I get tested. I'm gonna go to the doctor this week or next week. I'm gonna get tested. I haven't had sex since December, but I'm gonna get tested because
Yeah. Especially because like there's all that like incubation period and stuff, and like you could carry something for so long and like not even know, and then it's like that one time you go get tested, it's like, oh, this is active enough to be showing up now, so it's like now it can be dealt with because you are aware that it's there. And I think that's something that that also needs to be taken into consideration, because even people that do get semi regularly tested don't think about that stuff. Um, and I was kind of the same way with my ex, and I didn't get tested for a long time because I like, oh, I'm in a committed relationship, like we're fine, whatever. And then towards the end of it, I was just like, I don't know why I haven't been doing this whole time, because obviously he had been cheating on me, and shit happens, and now it's like, okay, well, now this is going to be a consistent thing no matter who I'm with, because fucking I have trust issues out here now, and I should have been doing this the whole time anyway, but it took a shitty partner to make me realize that I should have been taking better care of myself, um, which kind of sucks. But now I'm like, I focus a lot more on like the actual like health and safety of it, and this was actually kind of a conversation that came up with Jason the other day, because I was talking about, I don't know, this is kind of slut shamey, I feel like, the phrase homie hopper, but I would have been considered that.
we can take it back.
Well, that's what I was called in like high school and stuff, because I had a mostly male friend group, and I was much sluttier in high school than I currently am, which like it's fine, whatever. Um, and I'm just like, I don't feel like we should have that stigma around it, because I feel like it should, in some cases, if you and your friends are comfortable like that, it shouldn't be like a weird thing, because I feel like it, at least to me, sometimes it makes more sense to like, it's like, I have a friend that I'm comfortable with, there's some level of attraction, we're just gonna bang one out, call it a day, versus going on Tinder and finding some random person that's gonna make it weird if you ask about how long it's been since they've been tested, or other partners or whatever, because it's like, I don't know you, I don't really have that level of comfortability with you, like, sometimes guys can be weird if you ask them when they got tested. And that's when this conversation shifted to like the shame around testing with him, because he's like, guys aren't like that, and I'm like, I think the kind of guys that you hang out with might not be like that, but as someone who's spent most of my dating career seeing men, they absolutely are fucking weird about it.
Like absolutely. And you know what? Good for Jason, and tell him to, that's when you meet guys like that, like open your mouth about it more so that you can help shift it. But it's almost turns out like sometimes you ask them, this hasn't happened to me in a long time, but there's been more than one occasion, several occasions where I've asked and they turn it around to like somehow shame me for asking, as if like they don't need to. Am I slutting around enough that I need to? And I'm like, sir, I took my first pregnancy test before I ever had sex, because that's how paranoid I am about just knowing what's going on with my body, right? Like I also want to acknowledge, as we talk about testing, like STIs like HPV, HSV, like most of the people have this, right? But they won't tell you because for some reason it's shameful, but it's not shameful to have, other common long-term infections, right? And then it makes treating it all shameful. So like So I literally took my first pregnancy test before I ever had sex because I just want to know what's going on with me and be aware of everything going on in my body. I'm going to go, get blood work. And I'm like, I think I'm going to ask them for hormone testing. Why? I don't know. There's nothing objectively wrong that I can tell, but how do I know?
Yeah.
So it's like, but I've had it turned around on me like that, absolutely, where I've asked like a dude, like, when was your last test? And they've been like, well, I don't know. When was yours? Like, dude. And they make like a face. I'm like, I don't know about that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care when it was anymore. We're all set.
Yep. That's all I needed.
I no longer care.
Or like even like the conversation around like some kind of protection or whatever. Because guys get so weird about that too. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like I have to be more intentional when it comes to that conversation. Because I have like a little mild latex allergy. Here we go with the TMI. And discovering that was not fun. I'll tell you what.
Imagine that it was.
This little fun fact. I'm allergic to kiwi, which I didn't know until like a couple. Well, I knew I spent most of my life knowing I was allergic to kiwi. Didn't find out until obviously like way later that I had my little latex allergy. They're actually interconnected. There's like some overlap with like having kiwi allergies and banana allergies and having issues with latex. So it was super fun. I wish somebody would have told me that before I started having sex, but
well,
so when it comes to that, it's just like
your lessons the hard way in this conversation.
yeah. But now it's like I can be more intentional with that conversation, because it's like, obviously, yes, I'm going to bring up usage of protection and stuff like that. But it's like, but we have to be very careful and specific with what kind we use, because I'd rather not have a very god awful allergic reaction while we're trying to just have some fun. Yeah. And sometimes that can be weird, because it's like, obviously guys will on occasion be shitty and be like, oh well, I don't like them, or it's not as fun, whatever. But it's like, if I say, sorry, I have a latex allergy, so like, and then it's, oh, we'll just not use one. No, there are options. We're not gonna go there. I'm not sure if that's what you thought this was, but I'm not trying to pull a thing on you.
We're not doing a bit.
Yep. Nope. Sorry, I'm gonna pause really quick. Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
I don't know that I've ever seen a dog go upstairs in a sillier way, so that was interesting. I don't know why he did it like that.
I wish it was on camera.
I don't know where my train of thought went, but it's fine. Oh yeah, I think I finished that thought. But it's, guys, it's weird having those conversations sometimes with people who are not up to that level of comfortability, I guess, which is kind of the point that I was trying to make with the conversation with Jason, where it's like, if it would be nice if there was less stigma around like being like having friends with benefits, because like, why not? That's why there's a category of friends for that. It's if everybody's cool with it, then it's not really anybody else's business anyway. And that was just kind of on my mind, because there's been this whole fucking discourse on Twitter about it, and it was so obnoxious. It's like, why the fuck are we so worried about what other people are doing with their sex lives? Like, unless it's directly affecting you, why are we worried about it? Like,
I mean, it's kind of the same thing if we go full circle back to sex work, right? Like, if you don't like it, you don't have to consume the content.
Right.
You can simply not click on someone's OnlyFans link.
Right.
And not subscribe just to see and then get offended by everything you see, right? Like, just move past it. I'm gonna blame Justin Timberlake and Mila Kunis, because they had that Friends with Benefits movie. And then of course had to turn into a love story. They couldn't just effectively do the Friends with Benefits thing so that we can all see a good example of how it works.
Yeah.
Had to turn into a rom-com.
And like, I mean, if that's what works for you, then in the end, like, that's cool. But like having that intentional conversation when shit starts is also so important. Because it's like, if you genuinely don't want anything to come from it and you're very much just looking for something casual and like, you know, like make that clear. And if your feelings change, have that conversation again so the other person at least has an opportunity to reevaluate where they stand with things and like just communicate like adults. You know, it's so easy.
That's my favorite thing about like the poly community and the kink community, and like we won't have time to get into either of those communities on this episode because that's two whole other
Yeah, whole other episode for sure.
But like my favorite thing about being more involved in both of those communities in the last couple of years, because I've been single for 4 years now, is the intentionality around like conversation, and there's no conversation that is shameful, and you talk about every single thing so that everybody's on the same page, and when things change it's expected that you'll have another conversation, so it's not weird and it doesn't have to feel like like I don't know, it just doesn't have to feel, it's weird that it takes a while to get used to, right? Obviously it's not something that's easy right away, but the pressure comes off of the concept of having these very specific, detailed conversations and having them regularly with people that expect that. And it's just so much nicer than guessing at everything and like trying to, talk about what kind of condom you're supposed to use in like a careful way. Like you can just be like, hey, cool, let's do this. I'm allergic to latex. Here's the one that I like, whatever. I don't know. It just gets easier when you're talking to people in similar communities.
Yeah. I wish there was more crossover. Yeah. And that's something that's so funny to me is because like, I did the monogamy thing for a really long time, and then like I realized that just wasn't really working for me. And so like finding that community was just like, why the fuck has it not been like this? Because like I'm very much an over communicator in almost any situation. I think that's probably a little bit of like the neurodivergency and like also just growing up and being severely misunderstood a lot and like, whatever. Whole other topic again. But finding people that is just like easy to have that safe, comfortable space to over communicate and it not be like, why are you talking so much? I don't know. It's very nice. It's very refreshing. And it makes it easier to settle into like being comfortable with like where I stand with, partners and, like the work that I do. Because I also found that like the poly community is also a lot more accepting of, at least from what I found, a lot more accepting of the fact that I do sex work. Because there was so much shame from like monogamous people. This is like you're with somebody, like, why are you doing this? And I'm just like, who do you think took my fucking pictures? Like,
God forbid they support this.
Like, damn, like it's a fucking job. Like my partner should be like, again, I'm not hurting anybody. Like we're comfortable. It's fine. Again, you could very easily just mind your business. But like I don't get that same kind of shame when I do like this kind of work from like that side of the community. And I know there's a lot of overlap with like people in the kink community and people who do that line of work, and like I guess that's also easier to find less shame there. But there's, I don't know, there's can be some weirdness there still, because there's toxic people no matter where you go.
Oh yeah.
And there's a dude that is a little questionable, but he like I don't know if you're on FetLife. FetLife is super fun. I've learned so much.
You know what? I have a profile, but I don't use that actively because I didn't feel like figuring it out. I get really lazy with technology. I act like I'm a boomer sometimes. Like I grew up with technology, and sometimes I'm like, this is too many questions to even start the profile. This is another day.
Yeah. And like, well, that's actually one of the things that I love about that site is that it is so in depth. Even just setting up your profile to make sure that it is like a safe space for everybody involved. And like that's how I found out about like there's like meetups, and that's one of the best ways to find like events and stuff. But but it's also a very, very safe, comfortable space for me to promote my work. And, you know, when I started doing that again, there's this guy, and he started kind of trying to talk to me, and was being like very, very intentional. It's like, hey, I'm trying to hook up and stuff. And I'm just like, oh no, I'm good. Like I'm celibate. And it was just like, well, I'm gonna keep trying. I'm like, that wasn't a challenge. He's like, oh, I took it as one. Okay, we're done here. Keeps messaging me, and I've just been ignoring it because it's you know, I'm here to do a business. If you wanna pay for my services, that's cool. But I'm not looking to date you. Like that's not happening. And just the other day he posted something that was just like, it felt so weird because he's just like, it's so nice when you can tell somebody that like they turn you on and then them take it as like, you know, actually like a compliment, which it is, instead of getting all weird about it. And it's like, that feels icky.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's,
if somebody gets weird about it, you made them uncomfortable, and you should explore what's going on there, right? Like explore, because not everybody wants to hear things in the same way. That's a basic communication skill that doesn't even need to be applied to sex work or sex positivity or polyamory or anything. It's just like, it's fine if you had a good intent. You still are responsible for the way it was received, and collecting the information about the way it was received and deciding what to do next. Like that's not how that works.
The intent versus impact is something that like I think a lot of people still don't focus on, which is I find that fascinating. It's just like, well, I didn't mean it like that. And it's like, well, it came across like that, so I need you to address it like that. But the offense that comes along with that, like telling somebody that, you know, they made you feel weird or whatever, it baffles me every time. It's like I get that's not what you meant, but I feel weird and I'm no longer comfortable. So instead of getting mad at me for not being comfortable, we're gonna just back this up, rework it, and, you know, go from there.
There's a recovery possible. That's how you handle the information. Like
like that conversation could have gone so differently. But he made it very clear that he doesn't doesn't respect boundaries, and so I'm just like, yeah, no, we are no longer having conversations. Because it was as simple as being like, okay, like I respect that, you know, that's where you're at right now, and you aren't interested. Maybe we can still be friends, because I also make it very, very clear on my page that I'm there to do like promote my work, and I'm, you know, happy to make friends and like look for events and like learning and stuff, because there's a lot of educational shit on the website, surprisingly. I guess not surprisingly, but you know, and like, you know, so I make it very clear from the start, made it very clear in the conversation. It's like we could have just been buds, been supportive little friends, but nope.
No, it's and then in that community specifically, it's so the antithesis of everything that should be going on, right? Like that's the biggest red flag in these specific communities, is if people can't respect your boundaries or communicate or communicate for a rebound, like an appropriate rebound when you tell someone, hey, no, that doesn't feel good, we need to do this differently. Like the way that is received is such a red flag or a green flag, and it's so clear in these spaces,
especially with the dom leaning types. Like I'm sorry, but if your method is I'm gonna keep applying pressure until I get the answer I want, immediate ick. Like I'm fucking out of there. You can see the little cloud of smoke like a fucking old school cartoon. Like, no, gone.
Battle sound.
Yep. And that, I don't know. That's like learning that the hard way was obviously not ideal. But I'm happy that that's also something that gets talked about. Because I've also seen people be a lot more open about that when somebody is being weird, and then they like have talked to other people and they found that like that person has consistently been like that, and then they make it like a known thing in the community that this is a person to avoid, because they're kind of there to just take advantage of people, and they're not actually like I guess a proper dom. Because I don't know, I hate the idea that like that's what a dom should be, is just like always in charge, and like you're not allowed to say no, and what I say goes. And
that's horrifying in a physical situation,
oh
right?
yeah,
Like where you're pushing boundaries and you might be in like a really intense space. And again, like we could talk for a whole nother hour. I think we probably should listen to the end of this episode for another list of topics. But
yeah.
right? Like when you take that away from a conversational space and bring that to like a physical space, that could be horrifying on so many levels. Like it's the last thing that you want.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird space to exist in sometimes, but like I'm glad that it does exist, because it, like I said, it helps with the shame around, you know, just the whole general idea of being like a sexual person, even if it's not like an active thing at this point. Like it's, I don't know. Yeah. As weird as there are some bits to it, I'm very grateful that spaces like that exist. Yeah.
Well, yeah, to continue the conversation. And like, you know, there are good stories that come out of it. So when I was not celibate, I like met someone on Field. He'll probably come up more than once, so he probably needs a code name, but right? Like for the first time we met was like, when we meet, is it okay if I hug you? Because he's very, very tall and I'm very short and he loves that. And he's like, is it okay if I hug you and pick you up when I hug you? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And then like, after I slept with him, is it okay if I send you pictures? Like, I didn't just wake up to like an offering that I did not request. And it was like, yeah, absolutely. Once we've like already established a relationship, you don't have to ask consent every time. But the concept of like specific consent is so refreshing. So there are incredible stories that come out of these spaces too, and then there's hard lessons. But
yeah,
you know, the important thing is to learn them. It's such an educational space. Like I recommend like poly and kink books to people all the time, and I'm like, listen, you don't have to like these things. I'm not trying to like convert you and bring you over to the kinky side. What I'm telling you is there are like really good lessons about how to interact with people and how to learn a little bit more about yourself in like these books and these spaces that don't require you to participate in any of it.
Yeah, that's something that I think is hard for a lot of people, especially those like diehard monogamy people, because like that's fine. Like you found what works for you, and I'm happy for you. But if you're looking at the way that you handle your relationship and it's not like there's not that level of communication and like just all the weird little things that can happen, and no matter what type of relationship, that's very important lessons that I think can be crossed over from like different relationship styles. And I don't know, I just think at the end of the day it's important to just respect people, just fucking talk about stuff, fuck the stigma, fuck the shame. Shame has no place, you know? Like fuck all the shame, you know? Just live your life, don't hurt other people, just have fucking fun.
Shame has a message, and I have to tell you something. I'm looking at a book, and I need to look at this because we need to put this in the description or something. I'm a big Brene Brown girl. And the way she talks about shame is so very specific and talks about what shame prevents for us. Like, I don't want to summarize it because I'm actually going to send it to you when we're done recording.
Okay.
Because that's what it is, right? It's understanding what shame really is and what that means about us and for us. And then it's challenging assumptions. Like everything we've talked about in this conversation is challenging the assumptions that are either ingrained or taught to us from a very early age and for a long time. And like, what is on the other side of that challenge? Yeah. Even if it's not for you, it's like when your parents give you like food and they're like, just try it. If you don't like it, spit it out. Or if you don't try it, you don't have to eat it again. Just get the information. You don't have to like participate.
Yeah. That's a good message for anything.
Stop saying challenge assumptions.
Yeah.
Talk to each other.
I will never stop talking about communication. That's that, of course, because very, very much err on the side of over communication, because it's so much easier to come back from talking a little too much than it is to just not say something, and people get a lot more hurt. Yeah.
I love it.
This was fun.
Oh,
Oh, that one went by really fast.
I did.
But yeah, well, I guess we'll wrap it up there. Haha.
Yeah. Oh, and I started with raw dogging. Oh, we're so good at this already.
Either way, whether you're raw dogging, wrap it up, whatever. Be safe. Talk to people. Quit fucking shaming people. All right, we'll see you next time, silly little freaks.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Bye.